and in Bergen County, New Jersey, and in Los Alamos, and in Santa Fe. And this is Charlotte Cat. She wants to say hello too. And in Portland, Oregon, and in Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, Manhattan, and the Bronx. And hello everybody in Nassau County and Brookhaven, Hauppauge, East Hampton, Amagansett, and Montauk, Long Island. And hello everybody in at all? Oh no. Norwalk, Connecticut, and Litchfield, Connecticut, and maybe even New Haven, Connecticut, if Schofield chose to put a chat with Glendora on TV there. I have some jokes for you, because what I'm about to read to you is it's very, very sad what is happening to your country. How do you make the judge laugh on Monday? You tell him a joke on Friday. And the woman said to the taxi cab driver, "Can you back up 2 miles?" He says, "Why?" She says, "I don't have enough money to cover this." The housewife said to the man selling flowers and seeds in the nursery garden, she said, "Do these seeds grow fast?" And he says, "I'll say, when you plant them, jump back." And the Maine farmer had some company, and they were all sitting around in the kitchen, and there weren't enough chairs. And finally one of them got up enough courage to say, "There are not enough chairs." And the Maine farmer said, "Yeah, plenty of chairs, just too much company." And do you know that old quarterbacks never die? They just pass away. And you've heard of the donut defense in football? That's the one with a hole in the middle. And the college coach said to the college math instructor, he says, "Give my star player a chance. We can't win unless he passes the course and stays in college." And the professor says, "But look, he said that 7 times 5 is 33. And the coach says, "So, he only missed it by 1. And the football fan puts his hand on the TV dial and he says, "Helen, you got anything you want to say before the football season begins?" Okay. Let me get up the sail and we will start on this. Let me check the picture. This is for you people in Washington, D.C. on DC TV. United States District Court for the District of Columbia and the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. 17th. So let me first off show it to you. This is the caption page. The Judicial Council for the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. And this will be served on them betwixt Lincoln's and Washington's birthday, 2004. And it's Judicial Council complaint number 03, that would be the year 2003-16, meaning that they had 16 judges complained about, but if they're just counting it by complaints, Glendora complains about 14 judges in the District of Columbia. In the matter of a charge of judicial misconduct or disability, I crossed out the or and said and. Against. And they didn't say the names of the judges. They covered up. You do anything wrong, it's going to go to the police immediately and be on TV and on the newspapers. But when they do something wrong, they cover it up. Against 14 federal judges named Ginsburg, Santelli, Henderson, Randolph, Rogers, Tattle, Garland, Hogan, Urbina, Sullivan, Robertson, Kohler-Catelli, one person, married. Kennedy, and that is the entire Judicial Council of the District of Columbia Circuit. Glendora petitions the Judicial Council of the District of Columbia Circuit for a review of the January 16th, year 2004, order of Harry T. Edwards, dismissing her charges against the Judicial Council of the District of Columbia. Now, is that the nadir of incest? When the Judicial Council reviews Glendora's complaint about the Judicial Council? Memorandum, writes Edward, or his kid law clerk. Complainant alleges that several judges on the United States District Court and the United States Court of Appeals, known as the Judicial Council, have engaged in conduct prejudicial to the effective and expeditious administration of the business of the courts. That comes directly from the law. Title 28 U.S. Code, Section 352. A, says Glendora. Glendora did not allege. Glendora adduced. She presented the proof by their own hand. B, the business of the courts is what, folks? That's right, it's justice. This court has been out of business since 1997 that I know of. Edwards should count the judges, 14, and he should list the judges by name. Edwards should just a second, that's 5 a.m. It's my time to get up in the morning. I've been up since 2. I'll be right back. To make this point here for you, and I can't read it. Should not give a sketchy and shadowy representation. Adumbrate, that's called. More specifically, writes Edwards, complainant alleges that the subject judges, quote, were sued, and then instead of answering the complaint, they fled like fugitives and tried to make believe they were not sued and lied and cheated, unquote. Well, Glendora says most specifically, Glendora adduced these 14 judges, quote, were sued and instead of answering the complaint, they fled like fugitives and tried to make believe they were not sued and lied and cheated. Glendora presented the proof by their own hand. Writes Edwards, complainant's allegations, however, do not provide any grounds for action against the subject judges. So it's okay for judges to lie and cheat. Did you know that? Yeah, fine. Judges can lie and cheat. Judges do not have to be honorable. Judges do not have to be honest. They can lie and cheat. Now Glendora says, now Harry T. Edwards has fled like a fugitive, and lied, and cheated. Glendora will now prove his lie and his cheat. Glendora sued these 14 judges in the U.S. District Court, Montana. Infer is the caption. Here's the lawsuit. File number 17. It's Glendora versus Queens Public Television. Those are the lead defendants. Does it say the United States District Court? District of Columbia? Is that where it says it's brought? No, it says the United States District Court in Montana. Doesn't it? And here are the 14 judges sued. 333 Constitution Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20001. So we've established the fact that they were sued. Now, each defendant had to be served a copy of the complaint. Is that not so? And each of the 14 defendants was served individually, pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 4D. Infer is the complaint against each defendant, submitted to the United States District Court in Montana. Ginsburg through Kennedy are sued for rendering meaningless Title 28 U.S. Code Section 352. That is the right that you have to file a complaint of judicial misconduct and or disability. They completely rendered it meaningless. But it's all right for judges to lie and steal. Yeah, Edwards is sure of that. And in the complaint, I included this documentation, this proof, that indeed they rendered Title 28 U.S. Code 351 meaningless. This went out with a complaint to the District Court in Montana. And this is the, these are the papers that were sent to the United States Court of Appeals, District of Columbia, and the mailing list. So here Glendora asks, did defendants Ginsburg through Kennedy, the entire Judicial Council of the United States Court of Appeals, District of Columbia, answer the complaint? No, they did not. Well, what did they do? See the next page. They sent out this form from the clerk's office saying, if you wish to file a complaint in this court, meaning the United States District Court, District of Columbia, you will have to type it or write it legibly, you must set forth the facts, and 3, application to proceed in forma pauperis, that is, as a poor person, must be included. Wait a second, folks. Did I file this complaint against these 14 judges in the United States District Court, District of Columbia? No, I didn't. What does the caption say? I filed a complaint in the United States District Court of Montana. So these 14 judges, Ginsburg through Kennedy, make believe that Glendora was filing a complaint in their court, the United States District Court, District of Columbia. Did they lie? Yes, they did. Did they cheat? Yes, they did. Did Harry T. Edwards lie when he wrote? Complainant's allegations, however, do not provide any grounds for action against the subject judges. What's Edwards saying? He's saying, yes, they lied, yes, they cheated, but that's okay. It's okay for United States judges to lie and cheat. Did Harry T. Edwards lie when he wrote that? Yes, he did. And under what law? It is under the United States Code, Criminal Code, Title 1001. Willful, deliberate, and knowing misrepresentation, punishable by fine and/or prison. Can a civil court enforce a criminal code? Yes, if Glendora invokes the Racketeer Influence Crime Organization Law, RICO, Title 18 Criminal Code, U.S. Code, Section 1946. Does SUPRA apply to defendants Ginsburg through Kennedy, the entire Judicial Council of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia? Oh, yes, it does. District Court of Montana. So these 14 judges, Ginsburg through Kennedy, make believe that Glendora was filing a complaint in their court, the United States District Court, District of Columbia. Did they lie? Yes, they did. Did they cheat? Yes, they did. Did Harry T. Edwards lie when he wrote? Complainant's allegations, however, do not provide any grounds for action against the subject judges. What's Edwards saying? He's saying, yes, they lied, yes, they cheated, but that's okay. It's okay for United States judges to lie and cheat. Did Harry T. Edwards lie when he wrote that? Yes, he did. And under what law? It is under the United States Code, Criminal Code, Title 1001. Willful, deliberate, and knowing misrepresentation, punishable by fine and/or prison. Can a civil court enforce a criminal code? Yes, if Glendora invokes the Racketeer Influence Crime Organization Law, RICO, Title 18 Criminal Code, U.S. Code, Section 1946. Does SUPRA apply to defendants Ginsburg through Kennedy, the entire Judicial Council of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia? Oh, yes, it does. Is it treasonable? Yes, it is. Does a caption page U.S. District Court, District of Columbia? Is that what it says? No, it does not. See page 4. Herein. I just showed it to you. Well, what does it say? It says the United States District Court, District of Montana, 9th Circuit, which is San Francisco. Is the United States District Court, District of Columbia in the 9th Circuit? I just don't think so. It's in its own circuit. No, it is not. Have 15 judges lied and cheated? We started out with 14. We got a new one on board, 15. Yes, they have. Did Glendora write the 14 judges and tell them she knew they had lied and cheated? Yes, she did. Here is a copy of the letter. It was printed on the face of a 9 by 12 envelope, open to all to read, along the postal trail from New York to Washington, D.C. And here it is, folks. See the next page. I know you remember this. I read it to you at the time it was written and served. There it is. And it says, when are you judges going to learn to read? Does the caption page say U.S. District Court, Montana? Yes, it does. Don't you look pretty foolish making believe Glendora is filing a complaint against you in the United States District Court, District of Columbia? Yes, you do. You were sued August the 2nd, 2003 in the United States District Court, Montana. You don't know about lawsuits. You never appeared. You never defended. So Glendora moved for judgment by default against you. Rule 55, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. You look silly again. You send it back with a stupid letter. Well, your ruse is not going to work. I'm sending the court of the motion back to you. It is in the record, Glendora. So that was sent to Ginsburg, Santelli, Henderson, Randolph, Rogers, Tatel or Tattle, Garland, Hogan, Urbina, Sullivan, Robertson, Kohler, Cotelli, and Kennedy. Now, an open-faced letter, available to all to see on the postal trail, New York to Washington, D.C. We are on page 18 out of 32. Lying and cheating are not misconduct. Well, then what are they? Is lying misconduct? Is cheating misconduct? There's no sufficient evidence they lied and cheated, you say, Edwards? Glendora demands your grounds for the same. Prove, quote, and thus must dismiss, and thus must be dismissed, unquote. Says Edwards, CF complaint of Doe, 2F, 3rd, 306, 308, 311, 8th Circuit, Judicial Conduct, 1993. 10 years old, 11 years old. Well, Glendora says, what does this prove? What section of 2F, 3D, 308, 311 denies grounds for misconduct and disability as to Ginsburg through Kennedy? Is paragraph 54 supra a law made by Congress? No. It is just another bad decision by another bad judge. Judges do not make law. Congress does. C-SPAN had 30 hours of Senate debate about no checks and balances in the judiciary. Glendora wrote Congress, check out these judges. They have no balance. Glendora feels the same way Congress does about the judiciary. Judicial tyranny. So did Thomas Jefferson. What is the name of the kid law clerk who wrote this Alphosis? For every plus site kid law clerk spits out, Glendora can find a minus site. And what does it add up to? Minus and plus to 0. Says Edwards, dismissing as frivolous, unsupported allegations of bias and conspiracy. Well, Glendora says, what is frivolous? Is this paper, in its entirety, written by kid law clerk and signed by Edwards. Says Edwards, thus, because the complaint raises allegations are not appropriate for consideration in a misconduct complaint, the complaint must be dismissed. Did you hear that? What? There's no English here. There's no sentence. There's a verb missing, or there's a subject missing, or something. Thus, because the complaint raises allegations are not appropriate for consideration in a misconduct complaint, the complaint must be dismissed. Well, Glendora says, I guess Edwards never read it before he signed it. And this is a frequent occurrence in federal courts, folks. Did you read the newspaper article about the U.S. District Judge Manhattan who flatly stated he never read papers he signs? Yeah. At least he told the truth, and that's something for a federal judge. Writes Edwards in a footnote, but of course it's written by a kid law clerk. Pursuant to 28 U.S. Code Section 352C and D.C. Circuit Judicial Misconduct, Rule 5, complainant may file a petition for review by the Judicial Council for the District of Columbia Circuit. Any petition must be filed in the office of the Clerk of the Court of Appeals within 30 days of the date of the clerk's letter transmitting the dismissal order and this memorandum. C. R. 6A. Well, yeah. The clerk has already said so. The clerk wrote a letter saying so. And here is the order. What I just read to you was a memorandum. If you can. That's really a, what's the word for that? Euphemism. Yeah, it's really a euphemism. Before Edwards, acting Chief Judge of the Circuit, United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Order, he says, upon consideration of the complaint herein filed against several judges of the United States Court for the District of Columbia and the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, pursuant to the Judicial Council Reform and Judicial Conduct and Disability Act of 1980 and the rules of the judicial conduct for the District of Columbia Circuit governing complaints of judicial misconduct or disability, it is, stop right there. A, there is no more Judicial Council's Reform and Judicial Conduct and Disability Act of 1980. It's medieval. It's out. It is abrogated. Didn't you hear about it? Congress is just down the street from you. It's the Judicial Reform Act of November 2002. Codified as Title 28 U.S. Code Section 352. You had it right on your other page. B, the rules of the Judicial Council for the D.C. Circuit governing complaints of judicial misconduct or disability, they are an obstruction of justice. U.S. Criminal Code, Title 18, Section 1503. Further, they are unconstitutional. We are up to page 22 out of 32. Further, they are not written in type size that is legal. Their type size is too small. D. We now see what the Judicial Council is worth. All these stentorian rules of the Judicial Council. What is the decision? What is the Judicial Council? They lie and they cheat. Clay of feet. Feet of clay. Says Edwards, ordered for the reason stated in the attached memorandum that the complaint be dismissed. See Title 28 U.S. Code Section 352. Well, he says ordered for the reason the complaint be dismissed. Well, I couldn't see any reasons, could you folks? I couldn't see any reasons. The clerk is directed to send copies of this order and accompanying a memorandum to complainant and to the subject judges. Subject. See Title 28 U.S. Code Section 352 and the D.C. Circuit Judicial Misconduct Rules. What do you say about this? You know what I say about it? It's all penumbra and it's no core. You look up at the sun, you see the penumbra. What about the core? And Glendora says, if I can read it, Glendora will send her reply to each of the 14 judges and to others and to Congress. And now would you like to see Edward's signature? Okay, I'll show it. And Glendora writes, the Judicial Council reviews the Judicial Council complaint. Is that not the nadir of incest? The Judicial Council reviews the complaint about the Judicial Council. Is there something wrong here, folks? So Glendora takes a few shots at the clerk's letter. Quite a few things wrong there. It says a charge of judicial misconduct or disability. It should say Glendora versus Ginsburg et al. And it says that the its number, docket number, is a year 2003, and it's the 16th complaint. And I don't know whether they've added the 14 judges or did they just count it as one complaint. And it's addressed to Glendora. And it says you are hereby notified that by order entered January 16, 2004, where Glendora says there weren't any reasons. A copy of which is enclosed, and for the reasons stated therein, the acting judge of the District of Columbia Circuit has dismissed the complaint filed therein. Well, what happened to Ginsburg? Well, maybe nothing. Maybe she couldn't participate because she is a subject judge. If you wish to file a petition with the Judicial Council of the Circuit for a review of this order, you may do so in accordance with Rule 6 of the Rules of the Judicial Council of the District of Columbia Circuit governing complaints of judicial misconduct or disability. Such a petition must be received in the office of the Clerk of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit within 30 days of the date of this notice. Glendora says that these rules are an obstruction of justice, and that would be 30 days would be February 16th. So we made it. And it was very hard to make it. Because by Monday, February 9th, I have to have in Charles F. Dolan Cablevision's renewals. Odious renewals every 6 months. You have to run out and get a signer. Now look at this signature. And this is by Mark J. Langer, Clerk, U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. This is crazy. You know, that's not his signature. And you know, that's a violation. You know, papers have to be signed. The Federal Rules of Appellate Procedure has an analog to Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, which are for the district courts. And Rule 11 says that sanctions shall be imposed. A paper has to be signed. And then whoever signed that hieroglyphic should have printed his or her name underneath it. So there's some more lying and cheating. And then they sent this 3 little pages. Instead of sending it in a number 10 envelope, you know, number 10 envelopes like that. Okay? They send it in a 9 by 12. And I say, don't you have any number 10 envelopes? This is taxpayer waste, together with the contents. On page 25, Glendora says, did Glendora sue these 14 judges again? Oh, yes. Where? In the United States District Court, District of Nebraska, 8th Circuit. See the following 4 pages. Here it is. Here's the complaint. And you see, it's in the United States District Court of Nebraska, Omnibus 19. And look it, they almost made it to be the lead defendants. They're second in line. And here's their address right here, 333 Constitution Avenue, Northwest Washington, D.C. Very often I address at 333 Constitutionless Avenue. And here is a complaint against them in the United States District Court, Nebraska. Beta, Ginsburg through Kennedy are sued for violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 1001. Glendora invokes 18 U.S. Code Section 1946 to give the court criminal jurisdiction over their violations. Remember what 001 is? Willfully lying and misrepresenting. Further, Glendora invokes Title 42, the U.S. Code, Section 1983, Civil Rights, and Section 1985, Conspiracy. Further, these defendants rendered meaningless Title 28, U.S. Code, Section 352. Further, these defendants, this is Ginsburg through Kennedy, United States Court of Appeals, and the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Further, these defendants violated Glendora's rights under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rules 1, that your court action shall be just, speedy, and inexpensive. That's a right, and you are guaranteed that in any action you bring in a federal court. And also Rules 26 to 37, discovery. And also Rule 38, jury trial shall be held in violate. That's not because you're wearing a purple dress, in violate. Inter alia. Glendora's papers to Ginsburg through Kennedy of October 3rd, 03, of October 6th, 03, of July 22nd, 03, tell the odious ambush. Now, did the defendants ever answer this complaint? No. Did they ever defend? No. They are all in default by Rule 55, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. They are also in default in Montana. These people, their business is lawsuits. They get sued and they don't know what to do. If you get sued, you answer the complaint. You either say, I admit it, or I deny it, or I don't have enough information to form a belief. And here these people are getting paid $140,000 a year plus. Their business is lawsuits. They get sued, and they don't know what to do with their own lawsuit. Now, is this the discovery of the century, or isn't And the Circuit Court for the District of Columbia, 14 judges, is in default in the Ninth Circuit, San Francisco. How many circuits are they in default? Montana, San Francisco, Ninth Circuit. They're also in default in Nebraska. Now, Glendora doesn't know if you people have heard of the Bible or not, but I commend it to you. There are some really good sites. And Glendora tried this one. This is Matthew 18. (15 to 20). Oh, that can't be. Yeah, 15 to 20. Okay. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, I tried that. I went and I told him their fault. If he shall hear thee, then thou hast gained thy brother. No, the devil owns him. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more. I did that. I think I took about 6 more. George McDermott, Zabby, 2 or 3 others. Take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. I did that. And if he shall neglect to hear them, and these 14 judges did, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, or if they neglect to hear the church, let them be unto thee as a heathen person and a publican. I did take it to the church. Whatsoever ye bind shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Do you hear? And here is a discussion of that. Our daily bread. An honest discussion is part of the solution. Yet such a loving, open approach is not usually followed among people. Rather than trusting God and walking into a tense situation with a clear conscience and a desire for peace, we tend to play games. We are on the last page. Are you glad? The cats are. They all want to be fed. They can't tell time. When I got up at 2 o'clock, they thought I was getting up at 5 o'clock. Under penalty of perjury, Glendora asseverates that she has told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and always has. So help her God. You have not, she tells these 15 judges. My soul knoweth right well. I do. I know right well. And that comes from Psalms 139, 13 to 18. Paragraph 94 is reserved. This is dated February the 6th in the year 04, State of New York, Jurat. Yours in truth and in amor patriae, love of our country. Glendora, chat with Glendora on 42 TV stations, including Washington, D.C. And here's the service list, folks. It's to Edwards, the most recent violator. These people are trying to rob you of America. Do you realize this is serious? Edwards, Ginsburg, Santelli, Henderson, Randolph, Rogers, Tatel, Garland, Hogan, Urbina, Sullivan, Robertson, Kohler, Catelli, Kennedy, Langer, Glendora TV audience, the Center for Judicial Accountability Incorporated, the Glendora TV audience, that's you. You're the most important one on this list. George McDermott, Orrin Hatch, Senate Judiciary Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, George Bush, Ralph or Leonidas Ralph Meekum, or is it Ralph Leonidas Meekum, the so-called administrator of U.S. courts. Butts, a great champion of people's rights, your rights, and Zabby, another one, and McKenna, who's had a terrible, her sister has had terrible injustice in the federal court, and to Harry Richardson, another great patriot, who has had terrible injustice in the courts, federal courts. And a copy to who to sue. This is Opus 1087. It took 13 hours, and it cost $46.49 to print post. What do you think of that? I think my number's right there. Call me. The lawyer said to the judge, I want a new trial on the basis of new evidence. The judge says, what's the new evidence? The lawyer says, I just found out my client has another $10,000. Church is over, everybody. It was good. I didn't videotape it because we can't afford to have the worship in the sanctuary. And we were downstairs in the cheap church, down in the Sunday school room. But it was good. The hymns were good. And the message was good. And that's church on the second Sunday in February. And winter's half over, folks, and you can feel how strong the sun is. Isn't the sun strong? And after we feed many cats, I will resume Dolan. The paper is just about done. The paper is just about done. There it sits. The caption page and the hours and dollars. And then to print it. Collate, label, staple, do the envelopes, and serve it. This is Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation in the City Court of Rye, Westchester County, State of New York, United States of America. This is Rye Dolan being printed. I think it's like 124 pages and 10 sets. First 10 pages are printed. Here's a man-made furry red chair filled with calico. They look like caterpillars. They look like cats. They look like caterpillars. And this one loves to sleep on her back. Nice to have her sleep. She gets into everything. We're still doing Rye Dolan, Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan, and Cablevision Systems Corporation in the Rye City Court. This is Mardi Gras cake, King's cake, and inside it's the kings, the three kings who came to see the baby Jesus. And let me show you the baby Jesus that's inside. Right there. And the king cake has been associated with the Mardi Gras season for many years. The season begins on January 5th, or 6th, excuse me, known as the Epiphany, the day the three wise men of the East, Casper, Melchior, and Balthazar, found the baby Jesus. The king cake reminds us of this day by its shape, its circular color and decoration. Its oval shape represents unity of all Christians. The colors purple, gold, and green stand for justice, power, and faith, all of which we need. A small baby doll or bean or coin is hidden in the cake to symbolize the finding of the baby Jesus. Whoever finds a symbol in his slice of cake traditionally buys the king cake for the next celebration. And this is all that is left of it. And there's the baby Jesus. And here's the colors. Gold, green, purple. And this is the box I just read you. The king cake. And who are you, King Black? But you got a white tummy. Yeah, you got a white tummy. You want Glenny to pet you? Yeah, you want Glenny to pet you. Yeah, you like to be petted. Yes. He talks. He talks so much. He loves to have a conversation. Yeah. No, you had your breakfast. No, you had your breakfast at 5:30. And that's the king cake. Okay, get down to the ugly. Here it is. I have to read this to you forthwith. Here they are. 11 of them. Every one is pretty heavy. I would say it's over $3. This is Glendora, plaintiff, appellant, remand versus Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporations, defendant, appellants, and reversed in the Rye City Court. This thing took 40 hours, and it cost about $60, I think, to print and post it. But it's over. It's over, done and accomplished. And it's gone, just about. At 10 o'clock this morning it will be served. Here's joyous news. January 29th, court hearing eve, United States of America, State of New York, County of Westchester, City Court, City of Rye, Glendora plaintiff, appellant, remand versus Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation, defendants, appellees, and reversed. Notice of motion and motion that the court file Glendora's preliminary statement of January the 30th, 2004. This is what George McDermott said to do, and so he told me what to say, and that took an hour or so on the phone. Phone bill's $139, and you want to know why? Because I can't get the MCI neighborhood or the Verizon Freedom Package. Verizon copied it from MCI. My phone bill used to be $60 flat rate with MCI neighborhood. Can't get it up here. Turns out to be very expensive to live in Chatham for reasons like that. And for the landlord deceiving us. Landlord never said that we had to pay for the heat. Said heat, hot water included. And he said that in the ad, and Franklin and I would never have moved here if we knew we had to pay the heat and the hot water. And let alone water yet. This is an apartment. It was listed under apartments in the newspapers. So Chatham has turned out to be very expensive. I don't know whether I gained by going from $800 to $500 up here. I don't know that or not, but I could look it up though. Because we have just about finished the highest to the lowest, money in and money out for Franklin and Glendora since the year 1937 when Franklin first went to work. And that would be almost 15 years before we met. Okay, this is for you, City of Rye, for public access television in the City of Rye. Glendora says to all objections by defendants to Glendora's statement, she demands plenary grounds and authority. Defendants and attorney acted in bad faith. Affidavit of Charles Dolan should have been proffered last summer. There was no need to waste courts, scant judicial resources. Further, Dolan Cablevision Calighi could have settled out of court. Additionally, there was no need for the plaintiff, pro se and poor, and in grief over the loss of her conjugal bliss, to do the hard work she did after the lower court decision expend money, and burn up time and life. Defendant Charles F. Dolan has repetitively used the courts to make himself wealthier and to block Glendora's just relief. Glendora, as plaintiff, has first statement before defendants speak. Glendora is entitled to a preliminary statement as plaintiff in all courts. In the courts, you know, the plaintiff always speaks first and last. It's like being married. She wants this preliminary statement filed before she goes to court January the 30th, 2004, 8:30 a.m. should this matter have to go on appeal again, and should she not be allowed to finish the same in court. A preliminary statement is the minimum allowed in court. Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation, the defendants, have been obstructing justice and Glendora's legal rights and public access to his cable systems. The public is to have access to TV. This bad record is affluently verified in a multiplicity of courts. Reno, Albuquerque, Oklahoma City, Cleveland, Charlotte, Atlanta, Bangor, Baltimore, Detroit, just to mention a few. Glendora has made the faces of earth Glendora has made the faces of each one, meaning the legal papers, photocopied in print. You remember this one, application to the court for notice of intent? Glendora went to court to get $3,000. That was her intent. She didn't get it. Well, I'm getting ahead of the story. Glendora Memorandum of Law and affirmation in support that Charles F. Dolan appear in personam and be examined, that he does not maintain an office for the transaction of business at 47 Purdy Street, Harrison, New York, 10528, nor at Main Street, Port Chester, nor at Rye, New York, Inter Alia, nor at Yonkers, at 6 Executive Plaza. That was that one I read to you when it was written. And then here's a third one. Glendora, application to court. Glendora would like more than a conference. She has to drive 150 miles south, leaving at 6 a.m. to get to Rye, and 150 miles north to get back home. And she has to do it alone. And then this to the court. Rye Court, why are you autistic? Why don't you answer my applications? Glendora wants to know what is the court's position on these outstanding pleadings. These need to be addressed to protect the official appellant record, should it be necessary to file yet another appeal of this court's ruling. The appellate term ruled Glendora is entitled to $3,000. If this court decides not to grant same, I will appeal it once again on newly discovered evidence. This affidavit. Defendant Charles F. Dolan should have produced it up front. Improper venue. The appellate court took jurisdiction, therefore establishing the lower court had jurisdiction. Defendant Charles F. Dolan has no grounds to ask the Rye Court for relief based on his faulty affidavit. This is what plaintiff means by bad faith. The case was remanded for relief. If Glendora does not get her relief of $3,000 and $100 for wasted postage, I sent Dolan, billionaire, like $100 worth of stamps to return my tapes, and he didn't return the tapes, and he wasted the postage. For wasted postage, she must transfer the case to Westchester County or Nassau County Supreme Court, State of New York, United States of America. Charles F. Dolan, Cablevision Systems Corporation, and Robert M. Callaghy acted in bad faith. Glendora is entitled to an evidentiary hearing to solve this matter, and defendants and counsel must be compelled to comply with legal discovery. Callaghy violated the Code of Professional Conduct by prolonging this unwarranted litigation, causing the court and the plaintiff great expenditure of time, labor, and dollars. Callaghy lives in Rye. Callaghy lives in Rye. That's nice that I beat Callaghy again, but it's particularly nice that I beat him in his own hometown. Ha ha. By Title 28 U.S. Code, Section 1654, this court has to protect this pro se litigant for surrendering rights and liberties. The judge has to protect a pro se from surrendering rights and liberties. Glendora wants to read into the record what most noble Peter Lane stated in his decision in order of October 22nd, year 2002. The court notes that plaintiff enjoys quite a reputation as both a public access talk show hostess and a peripatetic plaintiff pro se. In fact, after separating the seed from the shaft, not an easy job, not an easy task when reviewing plaintiff's papers, the court concludes that she is as versed in the applicable law herein as many, if not most, members of the bar. Thank you, most noble Peter Lane. Page 13, paragraph 27 is reserved. The preliminary statement is under penalty of perjury that Glendora is telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God. And she always has. And Charles F. Dolan, Cablevision Systems Corporation, and Robert M. Callaghy have not. Dated January 29, 2003 at 8:10 p.m., State of New York. Yours in truth, and in Amor Patriae, Glendora, a chat with Glendora on 42 TV stations, including Washington, D.C. And without prejudice, Uniform Commercial Code, Book 1, Section 207, Glendora. Service list: Clerk of the Court, Callaghy, Charles F. Dolan, Cablevision Systems Corporation, CJA Incorporated, Center for Judicial Accountability Incorporated, that's the SAS hours. Glendora TV audience: McDermott, Butts, Barton Butts, great reformer out in California. Annie McKenna out in Suffolk County. Zabby in Suffolk County, and Who to Sue. And Robert M. Callaghy. Opus, 1,086, 5 hours and $10. Yeah, it got written by 8:10 p.m. folks, but I had to get up at 2:30 in the morning to print it. What were there, 14 copies? And how many pages was it? 16 pages. And then, of course, I had to take care of the cats and do some of the menials. Menials is spelled M-E-A-N-I-A-L-S. And then I had to pack up. I did a bad job of packing. It was so cold, it was -2 degrees when I left here at 5:30 in the morning. And I forgot my hair. And I forgot my hat. And I forgot my teeth, my front teeth. But Walter Balfour, bless his heart, got up at 4:30. And I went over to his house and picked him up, and his wife, Virginia, was already baking 14 or 15 loaves of bread for the church supper the next day. And bless Walter, he drove me all the way down there to the Rye City Court, 124 miles. We got there at 8:30, about 3 hours, straight down the Taconic and over Route 84 and down 684, which becomes the Hutchison River Parkway, and into Rye City Court. I gotta stop and tell you some jokes. Things are bad. How do you make the judge laugh on Monday? How do you make the judge laugh on Monday? You tell him a joke on Friday. And the woman said to the taxi cab driver, "Can you back up a few miles?" And the taxi driver said, "Why?" And she says, "I don't have enough money to cover this." The housewife said to the man at the flower store, "Do these seeds grow fast?" The man says, "I'll say, when you pop them in the ground, jump back." The Maine farmer had some company, and they were all standing around the kitchen. There weren't enough chairs. Finally, one of the guests got enough courage to say, "There's not enough chairs." And the Maine farmer says, yeah, plenty of chairs, just too much company." Do you know that old quarterbacks never die? They just pass away. And did you ever hear of the donut defense in football? That's the defense with a hole in the middle. And the college coach said to the mathematics professor, "You gotta pass my star player. We're going to lose without my star player. You gotta pass him." And the college professor says, "But look, he said that 7 times 5 is 33. And the coach says, "So he missed it only by 1. And football fans turning on the TV dial, and he says, "Helen, you got anything to say before the football season starts?" Okay, what's left to do? I have to report to you what happened at the Rice City Court, but I think that's well taken care of in this great big fat paper. Look at this, folks. Jeepers. So heavy, and every ounce costs 37 cents or 23 cents. It's going to be over $30 to serve this. Okay, be back in just a second. Okay, folks, here it is. February 10th, 2004, United States of America, State of New York, County of Westchester, City Court, City of Rye, Glendora, Plaintiff Appellant, Remand versus Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation, Defendants, Appellees, and Reversed. This is small claims action for the year 2002, number 146, omnibus applications by Glendora to the court. Alpha, Glendora applies to the court for a dub of the audio tape of the conference held January 30th, 04, circa 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. The magistrates in the United States Court in White Plains do not have stenographers. The deputy clerk turns on the recorder, and only do the United States District Judges have court stenographers. This tape is available for purchase for $15 from the clerks immediately following the court proceeding. Can the Rice City Court give Glendora a dub of the audio tape of the January 30th hearing, circa 9:30 a.m. for $15? Application beta, that was alpha, this is beta. Can Glendora videotape and audio tape the trial, February 19th, on her own equipment? Question mark. She wants to play the something. The videotape, I guess, the record or something, on TV in Rye and in other municipalities on her show. Gamma. Gamma applies for minimum discovery that Caligari answer how much Dolan Cablevision had paid him on the case from the start, Flag Day 2002. She wants to know how much for each charge and for what. Delta. You know, it's against the law to write on colored paper, but I think it'll liven things up. Glendora applies for friend George McDermott from Washington, D.C. to be her legal advisor at bar and sit with her at the plaintiff's table and speak for her as a second chair when she asks him to. Glendora will remain as the lead attorney. She did this in the Eastern District of New York, Brooklyn, U.S. District Court. You know, the weather isn't so bad. I mean, it's not exactly, well, I mean, it isn't inimical, it isn't wild, it isn't antagonistic, it's not adverse, it's kind of nice. Franklin's public defender double-crossed him there so badly that she took a leave of absence and went to Africa with the Peace Corps for a half a year as penance. Epsilon. Glendora applies a second time for the court to subpoena Dolan in personam. He is the offender, and there's no argument he should not face the music. Just because he is a billionaire, he cannot get by with hiding. Dated February 9, 2003. Anno Domini, Get New York, Yours in Truth, and an Amor Patriae, Glendora, without prejudice. Uniform Commercial Code, Section Book 1, Section 207, Glendora. Chat with Glendora on 42 TV stations. Okay. I'm going to read you 10 pages of this and I'm going to go to sleep. What are you going to do? Same? You probably won't stay with it 10 pages. But here it is. It's big. It's 120 pages. February 2nd to February 9th, 2004. Anno Domini, United States of America, State of New York, County of Westchester, City Court, City of Rye, Glendora, Plaintiff Appellant, Remand versus Charles F. Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation, defendants, appellees, and reverse. This is Glendora's post-conference memorandum and pre-trial statement. Hokey smokes. I'm sitting on a cat. It is. We let the 9:30 call for prayer. We let it go by. God, this is my prayer. Will all this hard work make us all perfect? Will it make Dolan perfect and Cablevision perfect and Callagy perfect? Will it make Peter Lane perfect? Will it make me perfect? Will it make you perfect? Will it? Oh, if it isn't, we're wasting our time. Because that's what the call is to be perfect and to make others perfect. Oh. You're not perfect, I don't think, Charlotte. This is a little baby Jesus that was in the king cake. And she's just knocking it on the floor, and you'll know that we'll never see that again. Isn't it something? They'll find everything. You should have seen what I took out from under the bed here. About 12 felt pens and about 6 cat toy balls. Quo Warranto. Glendora traveled 247 miles, spent 10 hours, and procured 3 people to monitor January 30th, 04 to get $3,000, and it did not happen. She does not understand why. Do you? Glendora asked the Rye Court 1.5 years ago for $3,000. The Rye Court denied it. The appellate term reversed the Rye Court. The reversal or deny is granted. Why wasn't the $3,000 granted? I just don't understand that. Do you? The appellate term gave you the right for a trial, quote unquote. No, Glendora had a right to a trial since the day she filed the complaint on Flag Day, 2002. Actually, it was in May. Callagy perfect? Will it make Peter Lane perfect? Will it make me perfect? Will it make you perfect? Will it? Oh, if it isn't, we're wasting our time. Because that's what the call is to be perfect and to make others perfect. Oh. You're not perfect, I don't think, Charlotte. This is a little baby Jesus that was in the king cake. And she's just knocking it on the floor, and you'll know that we'll never see that again. Isn't it something? They'll find everything. You should have seen what I took out from under the bed here. About 12 felt pens and about 6 cat toy balls. Quo Warranto. Glendora traveled 247 miles, spent 10 hours, and procured 3 people to monitor January 30th, 04 to get $3,000, and it did not happen. She does not understand why. Do you? Glendora asked the Rye Court 1.5 years ago for $3,000. The Rye Court denied it. The appellate term reversed the Rye Court. The reversal or deny is granted. Why wasn't the $3,000 granted? I just don't understand that. Do you? The appellate term gave you the right for a trial, quote unquote. No, Glendora had a right to a trial since the day she filed the complaint on Flag Day, 2002. Actually, it was in May. So Glendora has to show the Rye Court why she should get $3,000. Prima facie. It's prima facie in addition to the above. There is the time, the labor, the travel, the postage, the printing, inter alia. After several years of Latin, I believe that that's correctly pronounced prima facie. Glendora's price for an hour is $300. It's a solidly packed hour of hard labor, assiduousness, ardor, 50 years in broadcast TV and 30 years in cable TV. The experience and expertise of TV writing and TV production, the know-how of getting programs onto public access. She was on 42 TV stations, including Washington, D.C., and her court acumen in protecting public access rights. In addition to this dexterity, the $300 an hour is affluent with tenacity, keenness in practical matters, fervent devotion, and determination to succeed. There is no styrofoam in a Glendora hour. She is also a TV performer for 54 years. So how many of these hours have Dolan and Cablevision Systems Corporation consumed? It is 35 minutes to hear. It was 1 hour and 25 minutes to unpack from the Dolan Rye court trip of January the 30th, Friday, 04, to discuss what happened with George E. McDermott in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and to plan the next strategy to catch the electromagnetic waves. Thoughts. Cascading at 186,000 miles per second on paper. This is Glendora's, this is the little one who was helping lose everything. What's your name? You're very pretty. Yeah. Okay, there's... She just dropped all the legal papers on the floor. This is Glendora's hypothesis as a graduate student in physics that thought is an electromagnetic wave, as is light, with the highest frequency and the shortest wavelength in existence. C equal F lambda. That's the speed of light, c, equals the frequency times the wavelength. And since c, their speed, is 186,000 miles per second, E equal mc squared, one has to move a main to catch them on paper. These thoughts go through your mind, folks, and if you don't catch them and put them on paper, they, in a half a second, they're halfway around the world. 3 or 4 times. The professor said to the student, "What do you know about the speed of light?" And the student said, "Nothing, except that it gets here too early in the morning." Glendora left Columbia County at 5:30 a.m. court day, January 30th, Friday, with Mr. Walter Balfour, a monitor. Walter and wife Virginia have been so solicitous and model Christian to Franklin and Glendora since they moved to Chatham. We met them July 5th, '04, the first Sunday that we were there, and we kept moving north to cut the rent. $1,800 in Rye, $1,600 in White Plains, $1,200 in Mount Vernon, $1,000 in Hopewell, $800 in Stanford, New York, $500 in Chatham. But wherever we moved on a Sunday morning, we could always find people gathered together worshiping God, our great Creator. At 5:30 a.m. January 30, the temperature was -2 degrees. A hardship Dolan Cablevision must pay for, and it was 124 miles to Rye, and I think we missed the 8:45 a.m. prayer. We did. Okay, let's do it, make good. What's our prayer? That you will have everything you want. And you will have that. When we're perfect. So let's be perfect right now. Glendora loves to be chauffeured, particularly by a college graduate. She sat in the back seat in the luxury of the 1993 Lincoln. It has an air suspension. You know, you've never seen such a ride. And Walter was elementary school principal in Chatham for 42 years. Old principals never die. They just lose their faculties. We stopped in Stanfordville, New York, where James Cagney lived and died, to pick up monitor Bruce Bergman. It was -11 degrees. Bergman was sick and could not go. Glendora left him the lighthouse painting that she commissioned Chatham neighbor Linda Odell to do for $25. This was to make her artist dreams more realistic. A fellow named Bob said to Pete, "I've taken up painting as a full-time endeavor." And Pete says, "Well, have you sold anything?" And Bob says, "Yes, my watch and my car." We arrived at 8:30 a.m. The court officer says, "Good morning, Glendora. Sorry to hear about Franklin." Well, that was very nice. I said, "How did you know?" And he said, "The judge told me." And I said, "How did he know?" And the court officer said he read it in some place. She read it someplace. The judge was not in yet. Glendora filed her preliminary statement written last night, 4:30 to 8:30, and printed this morning, 2:38 to 3:38. Preparation time to assemble was 5 hours, $10, and to pack, load, and leave was 1 hour. This is page 7. Insert: Bruce Bergman is 57 years old and retired from the New York State Department of Transportation, Poughkeepsie. He is a professional photographer and flies over the state in the New York State Police helicopter. Another monitor who did duty in court from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is 48 and is from Westchester. And the third monitor is 24 and is a vice president of Auchmuty Funeral Homes, limo service and flower shop in Poughkeepsie, Hopewell, and Fishkill. She is Franklin's and Glendora's funeral director, and we love her dearly. She's a sweetheart. She took Franklin's body to Valhalla, New York Medical College, as an anatomical donation. So Franklin is in Valhalla in 2 ways. Wagner's Flight of the Valkyries. She's only 24 and very, very pretty. Harry Richardson of Wappingers Falls in court for decades, being ripped off $1.4 million by IBM and the United States government on a construction contract, and a veteran of the U.S. Court of Appeals, Second Circuit, did not show, but I know he wanted to. Harry is Glendora's age, 75. Robert N. Callaghy, Dolan's lawyer for hire, page 8. Since this case began, did not show. A young lawyer, Laura McQuaid, appeared instead. "Why didn't Callagy come?" Glendora asked. And she says, "I don't know. I guess he had another engagement." And Glendora says, "Oh, he's getting married again?" Glendora got McQuaid's business card and served McQuaid a copy of Glendora's preliminary statement, just filed. McQuaid should have made a notice of appearance. Glendora and 3 monitors all enjoyed City Court Judge Peter Lane resolving the cases on the civil calendar. Lane exuded keenness in intellectual and practical matters, magnanimity and agility. I think I better try that again. Lane exuded keenness in intellectual and practical matters, magnanimity and agility. He handled the issue skillfully. Later in the day, we enjoyed discussing this show. It is too bad there was no matinee. Peter Lane called the case correctly, Glendora versus Dolan and Cablevision, in spite of Callagy's atrocious adumbrals to dodge the correct caption. Lane asked for 5 minutes to go to Chambers and read the just submitted preliminary statement. He made certain that McQuaid had a copy and had been served. Glendora asked, "Is this McCullough Place?" The court is at 23 McCullough Place or something like that. And Lane responded, "Yes." And Glendora says, "Are you Peter Lane?" And he said, "Yes, as you well know." Well, the pun on place and Lane failed. In other words, is this McCullough Place? And are you Peter Lane? 25 paragraph on page 9, total hours and dollars forwarded. Glendora now stops the clock and the cash register to recount what happened at the conference of circa 20 minutes. When he returned to the bench from reading the preliminary statement in Chambers, City Court, Judge Peter Lane said to Glendora, "My condolences to you about your husband for the loss. This was affecting," and Glendora thanked him. Lane mentioned settlement. Yeah, Dolan won't settle. McQuaid was vague. Lane mentioned the word cash. McQuaid demurred, but mumbled no money. McQuaid obviously had no authority. Glendora said, quote, "That's why I want Dolan here. The only person with authority to make that decision." Lane mentioned the Dolan affidavit that Dolan was not a resident of Westchester and did not have a business office in Westchester. He said to McQuaid, "I consider this is a motion to re-argue." Lane asked Glendora to stipulate something. Glendora wasn't sure. She said, "I reserve." Lane and McQuaid spoke about making a motion to re-argue, and Glendora said, "It should be in writing." And Lane said he wanted to set a trial date. He asked Glendora what she wants about the affidavit and motion for re-argument. He wanted an answer. Lane wanted an answer. And Glendora says, "Well, let me think a minute." And she did. She said, "I'm opposed." Then Peter Lane said to McQuaid, "I'm denying this." This meant the affidavit signed by Charles Dolan, owner of Cablevision, Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks, the New York Rangers, Radio City Music Hall, the Rockettes, the Wiz, and a few other things. And the Cleveland Browns. He lost. The court has jurisdiction over him. Callagy's specious arguments failed. Okay, we're up to page 11. I'm going to go to sleep. It was a good sleep, except for having 2 cats on my chest. No jurisdiction over Dolan issue is settled forever. The court has jurisdiction over Dolan. This is a huge victory for Glenn over Callagy, another one. Insert, Lane also said it was untimely. The affidavit was untimely, slightly, by a year and a half. Lane rekindled his pursuit. I want to pick a trial date. February 19th, Thursday, or February 20th, Friday. McQuaid asked about pre-trial submissions, and Glendora winced and said she was weary of the motion practice in this case already. You understand by now, I'm reporting to you what happened on January 30th this year, 2004. I filed this case in May of 2002. There's been too much. Glendora turned to her three monitors in the gallery. Which date? And the leaning was toward February 19th, Thursday. McQuaid seemed to acquiesce without dynamics, and so the date was set. Is this a trial by jury? Glendora inquired. No, Peter Lane said with volume and finality. You can have a jury in small claims, you know. Uniform City Court Act, circa section 1801, et sec. Well, who will be the judge? Glendora asked. And Lane says, I will be the judge. And Glendora says, well, I know you have another judge. And Peter Lane says, yes, there is another judge. McQuaid mumbled something about submit law, and Lane said something about law after trial. Lane said something about the appellate term, and to Glendora, you got the appellate term to do such and such. That's why I want an audio tape of this. And then I heard Peter Lane say, who am I to oppose the appellate term? Now that seemed to be the end of the conference. So Glendora said, I want to tell a joke. And Lane said, off the record or on the record? And Glendora felt it was adiaphorous. And so this is the joke she told. A man wrote to the United States Weather Bureau and he said, sir, you might be interested to know that I just finished shoveling. It took me 3.5 hours to shovel your partly cloudy. So Lane thought that was pretty funny. He laughed very hard, as did the other 5 in the courtroom. And then I said, I want to tell another joke. The judge said to the defendant, why did you park there? And the defendant says it was a sign. And the judge says, well, what did the sign say? And the defendant said it said fine for parking. At this point, McQuaid began to murmur, and Peter Lane says, Miss McQuaid, you want to tell us a joke as well? And that certainly brought the biggest laugh of all. And so the conference drifted to an end. And insert, Peter Lane asked the lady that came for Cablevision her name, and she said Laura McQuaid, and he was writing it down when she said M-C-Q-U-A-D-E, and Lane says that is my favorite way to spell McQuaid. And it was about 9:30 a.m., and Glendora asked for a copy of the tape, and the clerk Cipriano said to put it in writing, and Lane did emphasize several times that this is small claims court. Insert, when Glendora heard Lane and McQuaid speaking her name, Glendora left the judge's well, went to her box of papers in the gallery, and got McQuaid's business card given her earlier, and handed it to the court officer to hand to Lane. And Lane said, thank you, Glendora. McQuaid should have entered a notice of appearance and should have weeks before the conference. Callagy will not order a tape because Dolan is impecunious. If he did order a copy, it would be the record, and Glendora could make a copy of it. And Glendora's report on the conference, so much as she could understand it. And this is page 15. Christina Cat Go to sleep. She's into everything. Okay, 15. So where's page 16? Bad mistake. I don't know where page 16 is. 15 is on both sides of it. Something about win the case for Charles Dolan. Callagy is a champ at ineptitude. Back when we were friends, Glendora told Charles Dolan, we're the same age, 73. And Charles Dolan says, good for us. Substantial justice comes from common law. And substantial justice means money. And actually, in the common law, it means gold or silver. No Federal Reserve notes. Glendora writes, without prejudice, Uniform Commercial Code, Book 1, Section 207, Glendora, and you should do that every time you sign your name, folks. Glendora did not receive substantial justice. She should have received substantial justice October the 22nd, 2002. And she should have received substantial justice January the 30th, 2004. She is going to court February 19th, 04, Tuesday, to receive substantial justice. Because of Dolan Cablevision, a 75-year-old woman had to get up at 2:30 a.m. to get to court at 8:30 a.m. Glendora forgot her hat, the purple one with feathers, a Judge Delight, and her wig and her front teeth. Hats are indispensable in courts. Glendora won $7,000 from Franklin Chemical in the United States District Court in Manhattan because she was wearing a red derby. We were certainly blessed with good weather. No precipitation. Our route is New York 203, the Taconic Federal Route. That cat. Federal Route 84 east toward Danbury, and then south on 684 toward White Plains, which goes right into the Hutch, and Rye is right off of the Hutch. And it's 247 miles round trip. So we can't come if there is any precipitation on February the 19th, Thursday, unless the temperature is above zero, or above 40. Now, folks, is this the Rye City Court? How do you spell Rye? R-Y-E or W-R-Y? Peanut butter on rye is my favorite sandwich, but liquid rye I do not imbibe. The Rye Court made Dolan Cablevision return the videotapes, 53 of them. But by the time Dolan returned the tapes, the news on them was too old to be cablecast on other TV systems. A Chat with Glendora is a news program of sorts, and one doesn't cablecast last month's news this week. Now, in a way, this is editorial control in violation of Title 47, United States Code 47, Title 47, United States Code 521 et sequitur, and of 19 New York State, or rather 9 New York State Code Rules and Regulations, Section 595.4. Wherefore this court should consider damage done to Glendora by the above. A blank videotape costs 88 cents at Walmart if you buy a pack of 10. A Chat with Glendora videotape costs $300. It has an hour of Glendora's work product on it. A ream of blank paper in a lawyer's office costs $3. But put the lawyer's work product on it, and then how much does it cost? Glendora can change anything, she can charge anything she wants, for an hour. It is unregulated. Lawyers charge anything they want for an hour. And look at these people charging $150,000 in a month. This is the Adelphia bankruptcy in which I am a creditor. And these people are charging the Adelphia, what do you call it, estate? They're charging the Adelphia estate $150,000 a month. Here they list what they're charging for. And here it says, a monthly fee, a cash fee of $150,000 per month, payable on the 23rd day of each month. The monthly advisor's fee. They charge anything they want. Transaction fee. A transaction fee equal to the maximum of $3 million upon the effective date of a plan by which the debtors emerge from Chapter 11, or 2, the sum of $4 million if each class pursuant to the plan of preferred shareholders either by affirmative class value approves or is unimpaired under such confirmed plan, plus B, $5 million if either the Class A common shareholders by affirmative and on and on and on. Okay? So these lawyers can charge anything they want. I am justified, as I read to you earlier, in charging $300 an hour for my TV work. Now we are up to page 27. Glendora is a creditor in this case. She sued Philadelphia for not putting her show on public access TV. Now we come to the point. Glendora wants to know how much Dolan Cablevision have paid Callagy in this lawsuit. If Callagy has a right to charge whatever he wants for his work product, so does Glendora. Discovery is not allowed in small claims. Well, a limited discovery is. Glendora asks now, and will ask in court February the 19th, how much he and Satterley have been paid by us shareholders in this case. Glendora notes again Callagy's hour is not worth much when you add up all of his bloopers this past year and a half. Callagy should pay the $3,000. It was his incompetence that attenuated the case. Glendora resuscitates her motion for sanctions pursuant to New York state law analogous to federal rules of civil procedure, Rule 11. Glendora will accept the $3,000 ad damnum from Callagy instead of from Dolan Cablevision. That Glendora got her videotapes back shows that she was right and that Dolan Cablevision was wrong. Doesn't it, folks? Now, I include in here, I don't think I ever read you this letter, so I kept it private. It's an important fact that Glendora did make efforts to settle and get this thing out of court and give the court some relief. don't think I ever read you this letter. I sort of kept it private. It's an important fact that Glendora did make efforts to settle and get this thing out of court and give the court some relief. Charles F. Dolan, on December the 14th, 2003, Anno Domini, from Glendora. At age 84, Franklin is dead. I would consider settling the within with you for $2,500. The within was the order from the appellate term, Supreme Court, State of New York. I will not go through lawyers. If lawyers are in on it, count me out. It has to be directly between you and me. When Franklin was alive, our monthly income was $2,600. Now it is $2,100. Christmas would have been our 49th wedding anniversary. Grace be unto you from God our Father. Glendora, chat with Glendora on 42 TV stations, including Washington, D.C. Without prejudice. Uniform Commercial Code, Book 1, 2207. Glendora. And here is the order from the appellate term reversing the Rye Court and remanding the Rye Court, or remanding the case to the Rye Court. And you have finally settled down. And here's a nice article about Franklin Buell when he left the Springfield, Massachusetts Union as an assistant city editor and went to the Buffalo News, now owned by Warren Buffett, as a reporter. And here's a prose by Franklin Buell, and here's a poem by Franklin Buell. In fact, I'm going to stop and read you that poem again. I have shown you the moon in its beauty and glory so many times, and the moon during February and January has been spectacular because the weather has been so cold and the nights have been clear. And that's why I show you the picture of the moon, and I'm going to read this to you. Making a midsummer call, he is no bother at all. He doesn't talk, he never eats, he never takes the softest seats. Though he may come late at night, there's no need to leave a light. He doesn't muss up a bed, requires no planning ahead, careful not to stay too long. He seems to do nothing wrong, but all that does not reveal the key to this guest's appeal. It's his smile through a window frame. This makes you glad the full moon came. And here's the jacket of his book, Franklin's book, Something of Love. I sent this all to Charles Dolan, and here's something about the flaps on the book, and here is the death certificate. This all went to Charles Dolan. Not a peep. Never a word. I don't know what's the matter with that man. I just don't know what's the matter with him. Okay, we are up to page 29. And the next several pages, I think 30 pages, are about bad Dolan, bad Cablevision, and bad Callaghan. What I'm doing here is proving my case that I should be awarded, which I've already been granted, the $3,000. I've proved it on the monetary basis of the hours that I put in and what the hour is worth, and now I'm proving it on the basis of bad faith by Dolan. There was no need to stretch this case over 2 years. Okay, I'll be back in a second. Finally, Christina is going to sleep. So all I got done on that break was to feed more cats and put Christina outdoors because, again, she was going to jump onto Penny, who was using the litter pen. Bad Dolan, bad Cablevision, bad Callaghan, bad faith. Page 29. out of 110. The first bad faith is that Glendora made it abundantly clear that she would sue if her tapes were not returned. They would not talk to Glendora. This is not only bad faith, it is stupid. Dole and Cablevision have a strict policy of not speaking to public access producers. Glendora sent them big boxes and the postage to return the tapes. In most cases they ignored this. In the remainder cases they wasted the postage. Christine Savarino was sent a big box with $7.85 postage to return 20 tapes. Instead, she used the $7.85 and the big box to return one tape. The cost of returning one tape was $1.33. Glendora repetitively sent them $1.84 to return 4 tapes. Media mail. Instead, they sent back only one tape. You could send back 4 for $1.84, and you could send back 1 for $1.33. They failed to cablecast Glendora's programs, opening up a succession of public access violations, not the concern of this court, but of plenty of other courts where Glendora has sued the Dolans, Cablevision and Callagy, and they are all in default. The next bad faith was Callagy saying it was one tape not returned. Glendora estimated it was 40. In the end, this court retrieved 53. Thank you, court. Next bad faith was Callagy trying to get excommunication from the courts and harassment and anything else that had nothing to do with the gravamen and writing a tome of irrelevance, ultra-virus, and rhetoric of time billable for in excess of $3,000, far in excess of $3,000. More bad faith was the Cunningham nonsense after she was fired and Brenda Cherry with her, and after Cablevision was falling apart, firing 800 people in Nassau County and 1,400 in Westchester County, and not being the employee Glendora dealt with as far as able. I mean, Cunningham was, I never dealt with Cunningham about videotapes, since nobody at Cablevision talks to public access producers. It was bad faith not to cablecast Glendora's programs. It was bad faith not to settle the $3,000 cash. The court wanted it. Glendora was amenable. Now, after the appellate term reversed remand, it is bad faith again not to settle it. Here is Glendora's Christmas letter to an old friend of hers, Charles F. Dolan. He never answered. She's enclosed the appellate term order that I just read to you. Everything written on these last 2 pages about bad faith was copiously delineated in Glendora's pleadings to the Westchester Court, the lower court, 2002, August and September, a matter of record. It was bad faith for Dolan not to send somebody to court last week, January the 30th, who knew something, who had authority. It was an insult to the court, it was a help to Glendora, but it was sad to see the young lady abused so by Dolan and Callagy. Callagy lives in Rye, as said, and could have made it easily. He could have made the stop early and easily. In bad faith, Dolan has bullied Glendora. The billionaire has bullied the informer populace. Yeah, that's a big headline. Dog bites man, but when man bites dog, indeed, he has had much to do with making Glendora informer pauperous. This kitty cat wants to say hello to you. Say hello and say good night. You're going to sleep, right? I know, you want to sit in my lap. She's the cutest cat sitting in my lap. One day I sat in they watch you. Do you know that? These cats watch you. One day I took a minute to rest in the upholstered red furry chair. And next thing I know, I see Charlotte coming, walking down the desk, jumping down the floor, walking over the floor, and onto my lap. She wants to be a lap cat, and she would have nothing to do with that. I taught her how to do that, and that's what she wants now, sit in my lap while I'm talking to you. It started in 1993 when Dolan, to assuage Galata and his Commissioner of Consumer Affairs, James Picken, took Glendora's program off of TV in Nassau County. Glendora was reporting that Galata and Picken were not protecting the consumers of Nassau County. They were letting Scott Lord, operate an underground lawn sprinkling business without a consumer affairs license. Underground in more ways than one. In his ignorance and arrogance, Dolan had Garger call Glendora and tell her, as of that night, the show would not be on anymore because Cablevision didn't think that public access was a place to talk about a dispute. This violated quite a few public access laws, and Glendora sued and won in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, in the New York Supreme Court, Westchester, and the U.S. Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. Calgary lost in all three, and it's no wonder. When Glendora left Rye City Court, she had to go to Harrison to get signers to get her show back on TV in Harrison, more Dolan harassment, and in Port Chester. Dolan took it off again. She went to the Harrison townhouse and got 3 signers and gave each a stamped addressed envelope to send Dolan the top off a utility bill to prove that each is a resident of Harrison. Because, you want to know why? Dolan thinks each is lying on the application. And the application, instead of being 1 page like Rye, is 5 pages of hortatory threats. She dropped into Harrison Town Court, where the judge, a youngster who succeeded Duke Johnston, was addressing 3 rows of school kids. He was saying good things about being a judge, and when he finished, Glendora approached him, says, "I like what you said, and I would like to say the same thing on my TV camera. I would like you to say the same thing on my TV camera, and it would be good for the public to hear." Well, the Corporation Counsel urged the judge to do it someday. When I started to leave, I said,